Most traders believe they're losing money because they haven't found the right strategy. So they spend months jumping from indicator to indicator, watching endless tutorials, tweaking entries, changing timeframes, and searching for that one system that will finally make everything click. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The strategy was never the biggest problem. Your mind was. That was the central message that transformed thousands of traders through Mark Douglas's teachings. He didn't teach traders how to predict the market. He taught them how to stop fighting themselves. And if you've ever followed your trading plan perfectly one day, only to break every rule the next, this might explain why. Think about what happens after a losing trade. You tell yourself it was just one loss. Then another setup appears. You hesitate. You remember the last loss. You skip it. A few minutes later, that trade becomes a winner. Now frustration takes over. You jump into the next setup without waiting for confirmation. It loses too. Suddenly, you're revenge trading, moving your stop loss, increasing your position size, or refusing to close a losing trade. Most traders think these are discipline problems. Mark Douglas believed they were belief problems. That's a completely different way of looking at trading. He often explained that the market is simply offering information. It isn't trying to hurt you. It isn't rewarding you. It isn't punishing you. The market is neutral. What creates emotional pain is the meaning you attach to what happens. Two traders can take the exact same losing trade. One calmly records it in a journal and waits for the next opportunity. The other questions their strategy, loses confidence, and starts making emotional decisions. The trade was identical. The beliefs were not. That's why Mark Douglas spent so much time talking about beliefs instead of charts. Because your beliefs determine how you perceive uncertainty. And trading is nothing but uncertainty. One of his most powerful ideas was that every trade is unique. At first, that sounds obvious. Of course, every trade is different. But most traders don't actually believe it. If they did, they wouldn't assume the next trade has to win because the previous three lost. They wouldn't think they're due for a winner. They wouldn't become overconfident after a winning streak. Each trade is an independent event. The market doesn't remember your last trade. Only you do. And that's the problem. Your brain carries emotional baggage from one trade into the next. Mark Douglas wanted traders to let go of that baggage, not by forcing positive thinking, but by accepting uncertainty completely. That's another idea many traders misunderstand. People say they accept risk, but then they move their stop loss. They close winners too early. They hesitate before entering good setups. If you've truly accepted the risk before entering a trade, you don't need to negotiate with the market afterward. The decision has already been made. Professional traders understand this. Amateurs keep renegotiating with reality. Here's a simple way to think about it. Imagine flipping a coin that's weighted to land on heads 60% of the time. You would never become emotional after one flip landed on tails. Why? Because you understand the probabilities. You know that one result means almost nothing. Mark Douglas believed trading should be approached the same way. Your edge isn't supposed to work every time. It's supposed to work over a series of trades. That's why he encouraged traders to think in probabilities rather than predictions. This changes everything. Instead of asking, will this trade win? You ask, does this trade match my edge? That's a much better question, because it's one you can actually answer. Another reason traders struggle is their need to be right. This is one of the biggest psychological traps in trading. Being wrong feels personal. So instead of accepting a small loss, traders defend their opinions. They widen stops, average down, hold losers longer than planned. Not because the market changed, because admitting they were wrong hurts their identity. Mark Douglas challenged that mindset completely. He argued that successful traders don't need to be right. They need to execute consistently. Those are two very different goals. When your goal is being right, every loss feels like failure. When your goal is executing your edge, every trade is simply another opportunity to follow your process. That's incredibly freeing. It removes the emotional weight from individual trades. Here's something practical you can start doing today. Before entering any trade, ask yourself two questions. First, have I completely accepted the amount I'm willing to lose if this trade fails? If the answer is no, don't enter. Second, ask, am I taking this trade because it fits my edge or because I need this one to win? That second question reveals more than most traders expect. If you need the trade to win, you're already emotionally attached, and emotional attachment clouds judgment. Mark Douglas often reminded traders that consistency doesn't come from predicting the market. It comes from consistently thinking like a probabilistic decision maker. That's what separates professionals from everyone else. Professionals don't expect certainty. They don't expect every trade to work. They don't expect the market to validate them. They simply execute their edge, manage their risk, and let probability do its job over time. Ironically, that's when confidence begins to grow. Not because you're winning every trade, but because you're no longer emotionally dependent on the outcome of any single trade. And that's perhaps Mark Douglas's greatest lesson. The market isn't your enemy. Uncertainty isn't your enemy. Losses aren't your enemy. The real battle has always been between the beliefs you bring into the market and the reality the market presents. The traders who succeed aren't the ones who eliminate uncertainty. They're the ones who stop demanding certainty from a place where it has never existed. The moment you truly accept that anything can happen, that every trade is unique, and that your job isn't to predict but to execute your edge with consistency, trading begins to feel different. Not easier, but clearer. Because profitability was never about finding perfect certainty. It was about becoming comfortable without it.